Hello, everyone. Welcome from wherever you are and whenever you are. Let's see. So where are you from? UK, Brazil, Virginia, Munich, Germany, North Carolina, Egypt, Boston. I know Boston and Cambridge. Florida, Pakistan. It's late in Pakistan, I think, very late. Sleep is important for happiness, but I'm very glad you're here. Holland, welcome. Israel. I'm very excited about the topic today. I've been looking forward to speaking about it, about self-esteem and resilience, raising children. These are topics that are very close to my heart and to my mind, meaning I've done a lot of research on these topics over the years. And I'm glad to share it with you. So here is what we're going to do today. I'm going to share with you some ideas about raising children with a healthy self-esteem, resilient children, and then I'm going to do that for 15, 20 minutes, probably. And then we'll open it up. No, then I will share with you a video about the certificate in happiness study, which is launching next week, October 3rd, I believe. And then I'll up for questions. Questions from you about the self-esteem, about resilience, about happiness in general, about any topic that's on your mind and heart, and then or questions about the certificate program, technical questions or anything. I'll respond to these. Hopefully the video will give you some sense of what the certificate is about. So that's it. That's the plan for today. Let me start with self-esteem for children. So I mentioned that this is a topic that's close to my heart and mind. In fact, this is what I wrote my dissertation about. This is my PhD work, the research I did. And the reason I wrote my PhD about self-esteem is because I really struggled with self-esteem. The topics that I write about, I became interested in happiness because of my own unhappiness. I wrote a thesis, a dissertation on self-esteem because I had low self-esteem. But not only did I have low self-esteem, I had low self-esteem and it made zero sense to me. Because everything that I've read about this topic of confidence, self-esteem, everything that I read about it suggested that I should have very high self-esteem. So this was after I graduated from Harvard with, the highest honors. I won fellowships. I was in an amazing, had an amazing job. I had friends. I was still playing some squash. I was doing well there. So everything was great. And I was receiving a lot of positive feedback, whether it's on squash or whether it's on my academic accomplishments or work accomplishments. So I was getting a lot of positive feedback and positive reinforcement. According to what I had read, or the way I understood self-esteem, my self-esteem should have, shot through the roof as a result of those, positive reinforcements. And that was anything but the case. In fact, I had low self-esteem, and I realized that I was experiencing something that I later came to call Sisyphus 2.0. What do I mean by Sisyphus 2.0? So you may be familiar with the myth of Sisyphus, who was punished by the gods to push up a rock push a rock up a mountain. And whenever he got to the top of the mountain with this very heavy rock, the gods would just roll it down, and he had to go back and again push the rock back up the mountain. So this is the myth of Sisyphus. I felt like Sisyphus when it came to my self-esteem, only worse, and this is why it's 2.0. So every time I would, really work hard to accomplish some goal, whether it's to get a fellowship or whether it's before that to do well on an exam or to win a squash tournament or, to get this dream job. And, I would push the rock up the mountain. It was tough. And then I got to the top of the mountain. I accomplished what I'd set out to accomplish in some cases. And at that point, my self-esteem was high. I felt good about myself. I got external reinforcements. People were saying, well done. But then the rock was pushed right back down. So self-esteem I experienced a spike, and then it went right back down. And then I had to push another rock up the mountain. Only this time, it wasn't the same mountain. It was a steeper mountain. Why? Because the accomplishment that I'd attained before, that was no longer enough. I needed to do something better. I needed to outperform myself, get a bigger prize, better accomplishment or whatever, in order to get to the same point of higher self-esteem. And even if I did get to the top of the mountain, accomplished, mission accomplished, once again, the rock pushed back down and I had to push another rock up in order to get my self-esteem high. Only this time, the accomplishment had to be better than the second time. It was no longer enough to do the same. So the mountain got even steeper, and so on in a Sisyphus battle, Sisyphus 2.0. Again, it didn't make sense to me because what I'd read about self-esteem is that if you give or if you receive enough accolades, enough positive reinforcement, enough successes, then you'll have high self-esteem. The message to teachers and parents: give your children, your students, positive reinforcement, and then they'll develop high self-esteem. That's what I'd read. Still today, if you read the literature on self-esteem, you'll find a lot of it. And again, what was happening to me was the exact opposite. It just became tougher and tougher each time. So I decided to do my research on it, and I spent, a few years of my PhD work researching this topic. And after looking at work by Abraham Maslow, Nathaniel Branden, and other researchers, I realized that actually self-esteem was not a unidimensional construct, meaning there wasn't just one type of self-esteem. It was a multi-dimensional construct. In other words, there were a few types of self-esteem. And I did my research on two of them. Dependent self-esteem, I named it, and independent self-esteem. Again, I didn't invent these constructs. They were in the literature, just quite literally buried, unknown to most people and certainly most psychologists. Dependent self-esteem and independent self-esteem. What's dependent self-esteem? Self-esteem, that is, as its name suggests, depends on other people. It depends on the feedback, the reinforcement, positive or negative, that we receive with others. So if someone says to me, Tal, well done, you gave a good lecture, of course it's going to affect my self-esteem, going to boost it. Or, Tal, I didn't really enjoy your lecture there, my self-esteem, or, people just get up in the middle of a lecture or fall asleep. That's the feedback is, less good. Self-esteem down. Or how am I doing relative to other people? If I'm outperformed by other people, say on a test, self-esteem is going to go down. If I perform better than others, self-esteem is going to go up. That's all dependent on other people, either getting their feedback or doing better or worse than them. So that's dependent self-esteem. Independent self-esteem, and you've guessed it, as its name suggests, is not dependent on other people. What does it depend on? It depends on my improving, getting better, independent of whether it's better than other people or not, but just growing, learning, developing. And it's also a result of doing something that I'm passionate about, something that is meaningful and important to me, something where I experience flow, complete immersion in the activity. So again, this is a result of, a lot of research by psychologists. I did some of it myself as well, but let me explain very briefly how this relates to raising children. So again, we have two types of self-esteem, dependent and independent. The dependent self-esteem is real. We all need positive reinforcement. We all want to be liked. It's part of human nature. So it's not like saying dependent self-esteem is bad and independent self-esteem is good. However, it's important that we as parents, and not just as parents, for ourselves as well, because it applies to a 3-year-old or a 13-year-old, and it applies to a 33-year-old and to a 93-year-old. It applies to all of us. So we need to better understand, first of all, what dependent and independent means, and second, no less importantly, what's healthy dependent self-esteem, and how do we cultivate independent self-esteem? So let me discuss these two separately, and beginning with dependent self-esteem. And here I'm referring to work that has, rightfully so, become very popular over the past 10 years or so. Some of you may have heard about it. This is the work by Carol Dweck on mindset. And let me share with you the research that Carol Dweck conducted. So she took a group of 10-year-olds, and again, this same research, and obviously you need to modify the intervention, but is relevant for all ages. But she did the specific study that I'm mentioning now with 10-year-olds. She took 10-year-old kids and gave them an age-appropriate test. Basically, questions taken from an IQ test that were challenging, but the students with enough work and dedication, could do well on this test. So she gave children that test, and she randomly divided them into two groups. Group one, at the end of the test, one by one, she said to them, again, separately from one another, not together as a group, but one by one, she said to them, "Well done. You're so smart. You're so intelligent." Group two took the same test, again, randomly divided from group one. Group two, at the end of the test, they did as well as group one, but she said something different to them. She said, "Well done. You worked so hard. You put so much effort into it." So both groups received external feedback. Remember, we're talking about dependent self-esteem. They received external feedback. Only group one was told, "You're so smart, you're so intelligent." And group two, for the same level of performance, they didn't do better or worse, were told, "You put so much effort into this, you worked so hard." So that was part one. Part two of this study. The two groups, or all participants in both groups, were offered an option. You could take a test that is easy, or if you choose, you can take a test that's very hard, that's very challenging. So you can either take an easy test or a very hard one, a challenging one. Group one, who were earlier told you're so smart, you're so intelligent, the majority of them chose the easy test. Group two, remember, who were told you worked so hard, you put so much effort into it, Over 90% chose the difficult, challenging test. Part 3 of that study. They were giving a test which was actually more difficult. Both groups were giving a test that was very hard, extremely challenging. Group 1, trying to solve this test, to do this test, got really frustrated. Many of them just gave up, got up and left. Group 2, that was earlier told, you worked so hard, you put so much effort into it. Most of them actually had a good time. They enjoyed it. They continued engaging with the test. They didn't give up. Part 4 of the same study. Both groups, all participants, were given a test which was, again, age appropriate. Different questions to the ones that they had earlier, but it was age appropriate. Same as the initial test that they received. Group 1, that was told earlier, after doing well, you're so smart, you're so intelligent, performed 16% worse than they did the first time when they took a similar test. Their performance went down by 16%. Group 2, that was earlier told, you're so smart, you worked so hard, you put so much effort into it. Group 2 performed 17% better than the first time around. In other words, their self-confidence, their self-esteem increased, versus self-confidence and self-esteem of the first group went down, as well as performance. And the two are intimately linked. Look at the difference that 1 or 2 sentences make. Group 1, you're so smart, you're so intelligent, wanted to take the easy way out, got very frustrated when the test was over their head, and over time performed worse, became less confident about their abilities. Group number 2, who was told you're so smart, you work so hard, you put so much effort into it, wanted the difficult, challenging test. They enjoyed learning, enjoyed the challenge, took it on head first, and their self-confidence and performance improved as a result of these slight differences in positive reinforcement. Again, both received positive reinforcement. First one about how smart, intelligent they are. The second about the hard work and effort. Why do we see these significant differences in their behavior, their performance, and their self-confidence, self-esteem? Because the first group, when I'm told you're so smart, you're so intelligent, well, first of all, it feels good, of course. We all like hearing that. But then what I try to do is protect that image that is in your head, who just gave me this feedback. And what do I do to protect it? I take the easy way out because I don't want to risk suddenly not doing well on a test. And then you may think that I'm no longer smart and intelligent. So all I'm about is protecting that image that I think you have of me. But if I'm told you worked so hard, you put so much effort into it, I mean, that's easy to replicate. I'll just continue working hard and putting effort into it. That's completely under my control. I may even work harder and put more effort into it. My self-esteem, self-worth, self-image is not threatened by the positive feedback of hard work and effort, as it is threatened if I'm told that I'm smart and intelligent. Carol Dweck, distinguishes between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The fixed mindset comes as a result of feedback that focuses on character traits or looks, things that are not under my control. Versus the growth mindset develops as a result primarily of feedback that focuses on the process, on the hard work and the effort. And these are things I can control. So when it comes to positive feedback, which is the genesis, the creator of dependent self-esteem, what we want to do is focus on the journey, the process, the hard work and the effort, rather than the outcome, rather than the intelligence or the looks or the things that are not under the control of the child or the adult for that matter. Because we're all susceptible to these two types of dependent self-esteem. Now, does this mean that we should never tell a child that they're smart or that they are beautiful, or that we shouldn't tell an employee in the organization that she is brilliant, or a great visionary? Carol Dweck would argue that we should not, because it engenders, cultivates, creates the fixed mindset or the unhealthy type of dependent self-esteem. Personally, I wouldn't go to such an extreme. I think it's okay to tell a child that, he's handsome or she's pretty, or that, they're smart, in moderation. And the main focus has to be on the journey, the hard work, the effort, the things that are fully under their control. So this is when it comes to dependent self-esteem and the healthy cultivation thereof. I want to move now to independent self-esteem. How do we cultivate? How do we build that? Remember, independent self-esteem is about doing things that you're passionate about, being immersed in the flow of doing something. It is about improving, but not relative to others, independent of others. So what brought home to me the path, the way to independent self-esteem was actually years after I completed my PhD, my dissertation. And it was when I gave a talk at a bank in New York City, and they invited their employees and clients, as well as a number of speakers, to deliver lectures. And just before me came on stage Joshua Watskin. Now, you may not have heard of Joshua Watskin, but he is a highly accomplished individual. A movie was made about him called Chasing Bobby Fischer, because he was the world junior chess champion, was on the path of becoming, one of the, if not the greatest chess player in the world. And then around the age of 18, this brilliant young man disappeared, stopped playing chess. He reemerged something like a decade later as a world champion in martial arts. About 7 years later, he won another world championship in another form of martial arts. I think it was Brazilian martial art, and then it was hand contact Tai Chi, I believe. So from a world champion chess player to a world champion martial artist, high achiever, highly successful. So he gave a wonderful talk about raising children, raising successful children. And he said that the most important thing to think about when we raise children is for those children to experience quality. And as soon as he said that word, quality, this was a big aha moment for me. What did he mean? He said, we want them to experience quality, a place where they experience real passion, where they improve a lot. They don't need to be world champions, that's irrelevant. But a place where they experience passion, where they're immersed in what they're doing, where they're dedicated to what they're doing, and where they improve consistently. And he said it doesn't matter whether you experience it in chess, or in martial arts, or in math, or in history, or in writing, or in juggling, or in folding paper. He said it doesn't matter whether, or in cooking. He said it doesn't matter where you experience it, as long as you experience quality. And why is that important, he said? Because once you experience it somewhere, you can experience it everywhere. So if I experience it in chess, my experience of quality is transferable, transportable to my future work in business or to my relationships, because I learn very important lessons when I excel in one area or another. And it's by experiencing quality that my self-esteem, my independent self-esteem develops. Yeah, my dependent too, because I'll probably receive more accolades and praise. However, if I'm really passionate about it and I dedicate hours upon hours to something, I'm experiencing a lot of flow. I'm immersed in the experience. I see myself improving. Again, as a chess player, as a tennis player, as a cook. And I develop a strong sense of self. So helping our children experience quality. Now that sounds perhaps, trivial even. It makes sense. But that's not how most parents raise their children. Most parents are not dedicated to help their children find something where they experience quality. Most parents are dedicated to help their children get into a top high school and a top college and a top paying job. And I'm not against top high schools, top colleges, and top paying jobs. But that's not the path to high self-esteem. That's not the path to resilience. That's not the path to happiness. The path is rather through the experience of quality that is attained somewhere and then can be applied, experienced everywhere. So these were a few words about self-esteem. Independent self-esteem, that's part of human nature. Again, we all want to be liked. We all enjoy positive feedback or feed forward. The question is, the challenge is, how do we give others and ourselves at every age positive feedback that helps us grow, the growth mindset, rather than self-esteem that keeps us fixed, or even worse, makes that hill steeper and steeper, Sisyphus 2.0. And when it comes to independent self-esteem, how do we help our children and our colleagues or employees and ourselves experience more quality in our lives? Things that we're passionate about, that we invest in, where we can immerse ourselves and grow. Okay, I'm going to stop here. What I'm going to do now is take a bit of break from this. I want to share with you a video by the president of the Happiness Studies Academy, my partner and co-founder of HSA, Yuval Kutz. The video explains very briefly about the Certificate in Happiness Studies. And what we'll do after is I will open it up for questions. You can already, if you have questions, put your hand up, which means going down to reactions and just click on the hand up. I will call on you, or you can send questions by through the chat, and I will get to it, or one of my colleagues will respond. And that's it. And again, the questions can be about the certificate program, or the questions can be about self-esteem and quality and independent self-esteem, or any topic that is somewhat or somehow related to happiness, which means basically any topic that's on your mind or heart. All right, so just a very short 2-minute video with Yuval Kutz.
Hi everyone. The Certificate in Happiness Studies is a year-long program. The program is offered in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, and Hebrew. It is composed of 2 parts, both about the same length. The first is called Introduction to Happiness Studies, and the second is called Facilitating Happiness. While the first part focuses on theory, although it has some practice in it, the second part relies more about applied techniques, although it has some theory in it. This is an interdisciplinary journey in which we will learn the relationship between not just positive psychology, but also literature, art, science, and other fields related to happiness. The entire program has a weekly structure with the following components. First of all students in the same cohort start off at the same day. And every week you receive access to 4 15 minutes pre-recorded lectures. Altogether, 1 hour. All of the lectures are delivered by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. You can watch these lectures at your convenience. It's online, and they will always be available for you to go back and watch again. Every week, students are invited to join a 1-hour live webinar with Tal, in which they can discuss happiness, the topics of the course, and their personal lives directly with Tal. Last but not least, all students get access to their personal life journal. The life journal is a weekly follow-up to the lessons with additional exercises, extra readings, videos, journaling, meditations, yoga, and much more. You get lifetime access to this life journal, which holds the most comprehensive bibliography of research and material about happiness out there today. Actually, you're getting lifetime access to us as well. As HSA alums, you will get your Certified Happiness Trainer certificate, invitations to our annual gatherings, support from HSA faculty and the entire community. It is extremely important for us to give you all the tools needed to pursue a career and work in this field. I would like to thank you for taking the time today and for the interest you're showing in this program.
Okay, so we're back. So if you have any questions, please put your hand up and I will call on you. And then I will also see if there are any questions in the chat. So let me begin with Paulina. Hi, how do we fix if we have been doing as the first group of the example? Can it be fixed at any age for teenagers and adults? What a great question, Paulina. Because most of us have been raised, if we're lucky, we've been raised in the fixed mindset. You know, if we had loving parents and supportive parents, they would often, you know, tell us how wonderful we are, how amazing we are, and how smart or beautiful we are. Again, if we're lucky, that's the fixed mindset. Or that's how we raised our children. Now, here is the inherent solution in Carol Dweck's theory. the inherent solution in Carol Dweck's theory. She talks about the growth mindset, which means people with growth mindset understand that our brain quite literally is malleable. Malleable meaning it can change, which also means that it can change from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. Now, how do we develop, because we may be in a catch-22 here, meaning how do we develop the fixed mindset if we have a fixed mindset and then we don't believe that the brain can change? We can learn. Specifically, we can learn about how the brain works. You see, until 1998, or give or take, the basic belief that most people had, and when I say people, it means neuroscientists and psychologists, was that our brain is essentially fixed. So until the age of 3, as Freud argued, everything changes here. And then after the age of 3, it's basically, maybe a little bit change around the edges. But it's quite, doesn't change much. In 1998, as a result of technology improving, the way we measure, the way we can scan our brains, neuroscientists realized, hey, actually the brain continuously changes. In fact, it changes quite literally until the day we die. And that suddenly opened up possibilities, because it means we can, you can't teach old dogs new tricks. It means you can grow, change throughout your life. It turns out that just learning about this idea that the brain actually changes and can change, which neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, just learning about neuroplasticity actually contributes to the growth mindset. So when you teach children or adults about the way the brain actually works, meaning changes all the time, that in and of itself is enough to start a process which takes us on the continuum from fixed towards growth. So the answer is yes, throughout our life, we can change it. And quite literally, it's never too late to change. First of all, by learning about neuroplasticity. Second, by experiencing more quality, and that we can do at any age, whether our kid is 3 or 18, or whether we are 33 or 93. Thank you for the question, Pauline. And again, this is the good news regarding Carol Dweck's research, and that is that we can change all the time, anytime. Let's see. Let me take a couple of more questions, and then I'll get to the hand or hands that are up. Okay. Is there a curriculum for us to use to be able to teach or coach in it, in the fixed versus growth mindset? Yes. Just go online and look at the work of Carol Dweck. She has online programs. Of course, she has her book, which I highly recommend, called Mindset. And that's what she's dedicating her life to, helping, especially in education, but not only, also in the workplace, helping people shift along that continuum towards the growth mindset. How to increase self-esteem in the quickest way. First of all, there isn't really a quick fix. It's a lifelong process, because we can always increase our self-esteem. But here are some of the things that we can do. Some of the things, by the way, may sound irrelevant or counterintuitive even, but they do increase self-esteem. One way, which is interesting, not the most important, but one important way, is physical exercise. There's actually research showing that Physical toughness translates into mental toughness, meaning that people who exercise, who become fit, they're not just doing their bodies a favor, they're doing their minds a favor. Why? Because mind and body are one, connected intimately. So that's one way. Another way, meditation actually contributes to specifically independent self-esteem, because meditation, first and foremost, is about being present, being in the here and now, and you're practicing non-attachment. You're practicing focusing on a physical sensation, on the breath going in and out, on a posture, focusing on a word. At that moment, when you are practicing non-attachment, what you're doing is cultivating your internal psychological muscles that are not dependent on anyone or anything. You're completely, totally immersed in the present moment. And remember, this is one of the characteristics of experiencing quality, being immersed in the present moment. By far the most powerful, but not easy, not quick, way of cultivating independent self-esteem and self-esteem in general is immersing yourself in something that you're passionate about, that you love, that you find meaningful. Okay, here is a technical question about the certificate. Heidi, when will the weekly meetings with you be? Is there a test at the end? So the weekly meetings are generally on Thursday, meaning today. They are at different hours. So, we have students from, I think as of today, 87 countries. We cannot, there is no, given that the world is round, there is no time that's good for everyone. So every week we have it at a time that's good or better for one side of the globe. So at the very least, you'll be able to attend a live webinar every other week. Obviously, all the other, and all the webinars are recorded. So you can watch it a day after or 6 months after. In terms of the lectures that you watch, they're pre-recorded, so you can watch it at your convenience, whenever you want. The readings, obviously, you do whenever you'd want. The exercises, you can do whenever you want. Now, speaking of exercises, there is no test at the end. You're not graded. This is, of course, different than our master's degree. Our master's degree, there are papers and they're graded, and because it's an academic degree, we have to do that. But in the certificate program, you take it at your own pace. We have students who we actually just had a certificate, a ceremony for our graduates. And some of them got it after a year, which is the minimum amount of time. And some of them got it after 2.5 years. Doesn't mean it's better or worse. It was simply their pace. And then we have many of our students who complete the certificate program and then start it again. They go from the beginning just to understand it at a higher level. Because you have access to it for the rest of your life. You have access to this material. Okay, so we have a hand, and Glenna, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, Tal.
Hi.
Hi. So first of all, yeah, thank you for saying it's a lifelong process, in the same way I believe the course is, thankfully, because I'm one of those who is on the course 2 years now, but coming close. But the talk with regard to self-esteem, I was just writing something down because I think I'll give the words my thoughts, and then maybe you'll come up with the question yourself, actually, because I was thinking of being competent and confident. And these are two things when it comes to parenting, and we speak about with regard to encouraging children. And I think my question is, both required in order to develop the self-esteem. However, there's something else there, and I don't think I can quite word it, but it's like, which one is it, the chicken or the egg type of situation? Do you know what I mean? It's like people can refer to themselves as competent, but say they're not confident, and vice versa. So I think that's what's going around in my...
Glenna, that's a very good distinction that you made there. Because if you think about what's being competent, so I can, let's say I'm a cook, and I feel very competent at what I'm a good cook, or I feel very competent as a parent, or I feel very competent as a tennis player. So competence is how good am I at what I'm doing. But that doesn't translate necessarily to confidence. Very recently, we've come across world-class athletes who are depressed, and at least based on their interviews, it doesn't seem like they're very confident. They're competent, they're top of their game. You can get better, more competent than that, but they're not confident. They can go hand in hand, but they don't have to go hand in hand, because competence means, how good am I at what I do? Confidence is a mindset. Nathaniel Branden, one of my teachers, whom I mostly based my research on, creates a very similar distinction to the one you made. I think it's even parallel. So he talks about self-confidence, and then he talks about self-worth. And the way he describes it is, self-competence brings the content to one's self-esteem. Self-worth meaning, do I have the capacity to accept what competence generates? And the image that he describes is one of a cup. So self-worth, or what you refer to as confidence, is like a cup. Now, if you shut the cup, with a lid, doesn't matter how much you pour into it, no matter how well you do on the Olympics or how much accolades you get, it's just not going to go in. It's going to pour out. It's not going to fill your cup, so to speak. So you need to be, again, Nathaniel Branden's words, worthy of happiness. And he talks about how so many people don't experience worthiness. So many people do not experience, do not feel like they're worthy of happiness. And then it doesn't matter how well they do, they just don't feel worthy. And then there's self-esteem in total, which comprises of competence and confidence. Their self-esteem does not rise. Because no matter how much success they have, how much you pour in, nothing is going to actually enter that cup. Nothing's going to fill your self-confidence or self-worth, in Branden's words. How do we become more worthy of happiness? Again, meditation, because meditation is not about comparing ourselves. It's about just being present. And by our very nature, we are worthy. We don't need to do anything to be worthy of happiness. We just need to be aware of our nature, of our worth as human beings. So meditation is a good way to do it. Obviously experiencing, love and nourishment and nurturing when we are young, that is, of course, important for healthy self-worth. But even if we didn't get it early on, or we got it partially. We can always cultivate it. Remember, our brain is plastic. We can always cultivate it later on in life through many of the practice. Now, many of these practices are the very things that we do as part of our program. Journaling is one such practice. Physical exercise is another. Meditation is another. Acting kindly toward others contributes to our sense of self-worth, because we feel better about ourselves when we're kind, when we're generous. So these are all ways. And I'm giving you really the tip of the iceberg here. In our course, of course, in our certificate program, we go into real depth when it comes to cultivating healthy resilience, healthy self-esteem. Thank you, Glenna, for the question. And again, it's a lifelong process, cultivating self-competence and self-confidence, self-worth.
Yeah.
Let me take a few questions here. So there are a few questions about the certificate. Again, as I mentioned, the certificate starts next week, 3rd of October. To sign up, you'll get an email after this with instructions or where, if you want to sign up. And it's offered in multiple languages, of course, in English, and then in Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, Hebrew, and Vietnamese. Okay, let me call on, is it Dinuka? Is this how you pronounce your name?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so my question was, well, the first question was about the curriculum and whether we would get a curriculum to teach, not on the self-esteem, but generally for the certification.
Yeah.
For the entire program.
Yes. So will you get will you get a curriculum that you'll be able to teach after? The answer is absolutely yes. Some of our students, even once they started, they would ask me, Tal, can I use this material that you shared this week, or can I teach this model that you that you taught? And my answer is always the same. I wouldn't be teaching this certificate if I didn't want you to teach. The reason why I teach you, why we put so much work and hard work and effort into this, is because we want to serve it forward or pay it forward. We want you to take these ideas. So we're going to give you all the tools that you need, and many that you may not need to take it and teach it. This means video material that you'll be able to use. This means access to a lot of research, a lot of ideas. This also means a community. And here I want to say a few more words, Dinuka. I often say to our students, I say to them, look, you're great getting great material. No two ways about it. I mean, how can it not be great when you're studying Marty Seligman and Sonia Lubomyrsky and Aristotle and Lao Tzu? When you're looking at and Helen Keller, you're looking at the greatest minds throughout history. Of course, it's great material. But more important than the great material, the latest research from psychology, neuroscience, the greatest philosophers, the most interesting literature, beyond this material, the most important thing about the Happiness Studies Academy is the community. I'll give you a couple of examples. So we have what we call the ABC, the Alumni and Business Club, which was created 100% by our students. Yeah, of course, I support it and I'm there a lot, and I'm delighted about it, of course. But they created it. And the purpose of this ABC, the Alumni and Business Club, is to help the students and graduates take this material to the world. So we have a group within the Alumni and Business Club that focuses on workshops and seminars. And if you're interested and you talk about it in one of the live webinars, for example, that you're creating a seminar now or a lecture, you'll immediately get dozens of people recommending you stuff, sending you PowerPoints, ideas that they have used. You can get those from us or me directly. There is another subgroup, a couple of students and graduates wanted to write a book, each one independently, and they were struggling. So they created a group, and now there is a book writing group within the larger Alumni and Business Club, and they get together and they bring guest speakers and they help each other in their writing and so forth. So this whole program is not about, oh, an interesting theoretical exploration of the science of happiness. It's about applying it to your life and helping you apply it to others' lives, whether it's as a parent, whether it's as a coach, whether it's as a manager, whether it's as a teacher, whether it's as a public speaker or seminar presenter.
Thank you. I have one other
Please,
question
go ahead.
quickly. Can happiness be achieved without dealing with or healing past trauma? And is that something you cover?
So look, the certificate program or the science of happiness in general is not a panacea, meaning it doesn't solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who experienced trauma, or someone who's clinically depressed, or someone who has clinical anxiety, or someone who's really struggling with a mental illness, needs to go to a therapist or a psychiatrist, find professional help. Now, having said that, there are many, more and more, literally increasing numbers by the day, psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, psychiatrists, who are applying the science of happiness in their practice, because many of the tools that you will learn are relevant for dealing with mental health challenges. Even more than that, they are preventative. In what sense? You see, we all experience hardships and difficulty, but if you apply the ideas from the science of happiness, you're not only stronger and better able to deal with these hardships and challenges when they arise, you're also more likely to grow from these hardships and challenges. So it doesn't just make you more resilient, it makes you more, what I've come to call resilience 2.0, which is not just managing hardships and difficulties, it's growing from hardships and difficulties. So these are some of the things that you will learn in the certificate program. Is it a panacea? Is this an answer to every psychological challenge that we face? Unfortunately, not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dinuka. Thank you. Let me continue with the question. So I see I can't join in October. When is the next cohort? So we have a new cohort every 4 months. So we have 3 a year. So next one is next week, October. The one after is February, the one after in June, October, and so on. When it comes to the master's degree, we have 1 a year, more or less. The next one's opening on the 29th of April. The one after that is a year later. So certificate 3 a year, master's degree once a year. How much is tuition? So tuition for the certificate program is $3,900. I believe participants in this webinar get $500 off, I think, with a special code, which is, I think, live 500. But one of my team members will send out in the chat exactly what the code is to get this this deduction. You'll also get an email after with all this information. Now, the question is, can the certificate program be used towards the master's program? The answer is yes. The certificate program actually forms a part of the master's program. So you can take the certificate program and then decide, actually, I want to go even in more depth. You know, you may say it's enough and you can become a coach, or, you know, you can coach afterwards. You can give presentations afterwards. You can proceed to become the chief happiness officer in your school or organization. It can certainly help you as a manager and as a therapist and as a coach. But if you decide to go further, you can then apply to the master's degree, and your master's degree, which normally costs, I believe, for the 2-year MA, I think it's 17,700. Whatever you've paid towards the MA or towards the certificate program will be deducted from the master's. So you're not going to double pay for the same courses, in other words. And then of course, you're going to get many more courses as part of the MA. All right, let me take a hand. Paula.
Hi, Dr. Tal. First of all, thanks to be here. It's an honor for me. I'm a huge fan of you. My question is, I've been here for some webinars, and I'd like to ask you about the difference between this program and the whole being program developed by you, I guess, with another Harvard teacher. What's the difference between them?
Yeah, so the whole being program was developed by me and 2 others, Maria Sirois and Megan McDonough from Kuripalu. There are a couple of differences. The first difference is that the whole being program, you know, we developed it, I think over 10 years, yeah, definitely over 10 years ago. So a lot has happened since, but there's another important difference, which I want to share, which also answers another question, which many people ask me. So how is it different from your Harvard class? And it's different because the whole being program and the Harvard class were in positive psychology. Our program is happiness studies. The difference is that positive psychology focuses on psychology. Happiness studies focuses on psychology and positive psychology, of course. And it also draws on philosophers like Lao Tzu and Confucius, like Aristotle, Plato, and Seneca, like Helen Keller and Marianne Evans and Sonia Lubomirsky and Marty Seligman. So he draws on great psychologists and great philosophers and great writers, and he draws on economics and history and biology and neuroscience. And it integrates these different disciplines, integrates them into a coherent whole that looks at how can I help myself become happier and how can I do the same for others. So it's a more expansive, more holistic approach to studying happiness. Because I realized over the years, and again, my background is positive psychology, but I realized over the years that we were missing a lot because we were not also drawing on the great works, on the great ideas of people like Helen Keller or Marcus Aurelius. And by integrating ancient wisdom with modern research, by integrating philosophy and psychology, by bringing together East and West, north and south. By integrating all these, we can get a much more holistic, coherent, and therefore helpful picture of what constitutes the good life.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I see Paulina asked and Sapir responded, is it going to be a lifetime access? The answer is yes. I want to talk a little bit about something which is very important. And I must say, it didn't really happen by design fully. It was sort of an accident, but a very good accident. So when we created the certificate in happiness studies, which later extended into the or expanded into the master's program, we were debating, should this be an online program? Should it be an in-person, on-ground program, face-to-face? Or should it be some hybrid program? There are, of course, advantages and disadvantages to any of the three models. We ended up going with an online program, which we decided because we wanted as many people as possible from all over the world to have access to it. And it turned out to be the right decision, certainly in that respect. As I mentioned, 87 countries. Many of the participants in our programs would not have made the trip to the US or to wherever we would have had this certificate program. At the same time, after we decided to have it all online, we also realized that this is somewhat problematic because we were losing out on something which is very important that happens when you actually get together, you know, play in the same sandbox, you're in the same room, the same location, the same retreat place. So much happens there, which can't happen now on the screen. So what we decided to do, and again, initially we were, you know, somewhat, I don't know if reluctant to do it, but we didn't really know where it would go. But we did it and we experimented, and it turned out the best thing that we did, which is we decided to have retreats, physical retreats, where we meet in person in a particular place, and the place changes. Meaning the first one, when we started it, was in Miami, and then there was COVID, and then since then we've been to Mexico. Not last week, just 2 days ago, I came back from Shanghai. Before that, it was in Lake Como, and we'll actually show you a video of the retreat in Lake Como at the end of it, which our next one is in Cartagena, Colombia. The one after is in New Jersey, which is where I live. In addition, we have, those are big retreats. You know, there are 2 or 3 day retreats where we get together and we and there is academic content, there are lectures, and there are workshops, and there are groups that they get together to talk about how do I start a business or write a book, and there are and we dance for those interested in dancing, and some people do yoga, and most importantly, we talk. We spend time together, we have fun together, whether it's over a meal or taking walks together. And again, as I said earlier, the most important thing about the Happiness Studies Academy journey, whether you're a certificate program or master's, is the community that's being built. In addition, just about everywhere I go, and I travel a lot, you know, it's part of my work, I meet with students. And it could be for, you know, 2, 3, 4 hours where we just hang out and chat. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be in France, and I'll be meeting with students. Before I was in Vancouver, before that in Toronto, in Israel, in the UK, wherever I go, I meet with students, and even more importantly, they meet with one another. So very often after such meeting, they create a group where they get together on a regular basis to just chat, hang out, and have fun and learn. So this is a very important part of the the program, even though it's not an official part, meaning you can graduate for the certificate program and for the master's program without meeting anyone in the quote unquote real world. You can do 100% online. However, we strongly recommend you do attend these retreats when they're nearby, even though we have students who travel literally all over the world to attend these retreats, because they really are a lot of fun. Okay. Let me take a couple more questions, and then I will leave you with a video, which I hope you watch, because it really captures what happens on these retreats. Are the readings associated with the course provided online and or recommended to be purchased? With the certificate program, all of them are online. You won't need to purchase anything. There is a list always of recommended books. If you want to delve deeper, recommended books, recommended videos, recommended articles as well, that most of them are online. But when it comes to the actual content of the material, of the course that you need in order to go through the course, it's 100% online for the certificate. With the master's degree, you have to buy, but not a lot. Today, as you know, most of the material is online. Soon everything will be online. All right. By the way, if you have any question, because I'm not going to get to all the questions that are in the chat. I know my colleagues, my amazing colleagues, Sapir and I believe Aviad are doing amazing work here responding to those. But those we didn't respond to, any question, anytime, info@happinessstudies.academy. Now, the moment you register, so even if you register, let's say you register in a month for February, you can already start attending the webinars and the retreats. So it's for students who have registered, it's for students who are participating, and it's for alums. In other words, students who have graduated, who can attend these retreats. Liliana is asking, do you have any programs or classes for kids, teens on happiness, neuroplasticity, how to use better their mind, positive psychology, anything to help them to grab better understanding on these subjects? What we're doing now is working on creating a program or a series of programs, really, that our graduates will be able to take and teach. They can take and teach it literally copy paste as is, or they can take it and then make it their own and use 5% of it or 95% of it. So the answer is very soon, these programs for kids are coming. You see, the nice thing about having this community is that we have experts in different areas for different age groups. We have kindergarten teachers, we have elementary school, high school teachers, we have senior managers, we have consultants, coaches, therapists, we have medical doctors, lawyers, you name it. So what they're doing, many of our graduates are doing, is taking the material that we expose them to. And again, from the greatest minds and hearts throughout history, the best research out there, they're exposed to it. They learn it, they internalize it, and then they serve it forward or pay it forward in their area of expertise. What is the difference in curriculum in the master's? Well, the master's just has more material. In the master's, we talk a lot more about leadership. We go deeper into the works of the philosophers. We do more work on coaching. But many people, I must say, after the certificate feel that's enough. I have enough material. I feel confident and competent to go out there and teach the material. Okay, let me take, okay. How many retreats per year are scheduled and how many days is a retreat? Look, we have, this year we we'll have 3 retreats. Again, we had Lake Como, we had Shanghai just this week, and we're having Cartagena. So 3. My guess, we'll have at least 2 a year, sometimes 3. And but these are the 3-day retreats, which usually come alongside other events. So last year it came with the World Happiness Summit in Lake Como, where you could go to the World Happiness Summit and participate in our retreat. So it was, if you were traveling, and many did travel from China or the US or that part of the world at least, they could enjoy 6 days of immersion in happiness retreats. But these are just the these are just the 3 days. In addition, there are many shorter meetings. So this year, for example, at the International Positive Psychology Association meeting in Vancouver, we didn't have a retreat, but we had a get-together, which was a few hours long with our students. Or I'm traveling to France for a private event to one of my clients. But as I'm going to meet our students who are in that area, which is the border with Switzerland. So some from Switzerland, some from France. I'm going to meet with them, and we're just going to hang out, eat together, and chat. So these are the mini retreats, and those, there are many. I don't know how many, but there are many of those a year. In terms of the big retreats, 2 to 3. Do you have paper books which we can buy? Yes, I've written a few books on happiness, on leadership, and many of our students have written or are right now in the midst of writing books based on what they learned in this program or other readings, and many of them with the support of our community. So with that, I'm going to bid you farewell. I very much hope that you will join us for our certificate program for our journey. When I write, and I often write our community, I always address our community as fellow journeyers. Why? Because I'm on this journey together with you. Just like everyone else, I want to experience more quality experiences. I want to continue to grow, to learn, to increase my self-worth, my self-confidence, my self-esteem. It's a lifelong journey. And it's much more pleasant, much more effective, much more enjoyable to do it with others. It's always better together. So with that, here is the video from Lake Como. Hope to see you either online in our webinars or live in person in our retreats. Take good care of yourselves and others. Bye-bye.
Tal is the master teacher of happiness.
I think he's so brilliant and wise and kind and humble. Everything that Tal teaches is based in science, that it's very interdisciplinary. And I love the fact that we draw on economics and science and psychology and literature and art and just everything as the holistic approach, and everything is interconnected.
You gave me this evidence-based, science-based tool, and I'm always grateful to you. Wherever you go, I'm going to follow you. That's it. You're not ever going to get rid of me.
everyone, and welcome. California, Mexico, China, Greece, Paris, Singapore, Indonesia, Ireland, Toronto, Argentina. Wow, that's amazing. HSA is not a certificate program. HSA is a community.
I signed up for the material, and the teacher, obviously world renowned and wonderful. What I didn't realize is that I was going to get a community that is so wonderful. There are people from all parts of the world, and it just makes for such a rich conversation. And of course, events like this where we get to meet in person just really solidifies that the community is made up of like-minded individuals, professionals within their own fields that are leaders and want to take this material that we're learning and spread it with the rest of the world. And the friendships made are what makes us all happier in the end.
When you find a community of people who want to live purposeful lives, then it just amplifies the experience that we're all here to share together.